ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm working on a 2001 Hyundai Santa Fe. Today I will be replacing our radiator on this vehicle. This vehicle has the 2.4 liter engine, and first thing I did was I purchased my radiator, which I have here. Highly recommend the Denso product. They are pretty nice at having a direct fit, requiring no modifications in most cases. So first thing you'll want to do when replacing this is make sure your engine is cooled down to where you can open up your radiator cap without it spewing out or steaming out. Next thing you'll want to do is, here I have my new radiator flipped upside down. On the bottom here you'll see a petcock. Use a Phillips screwdriver in this and you would turn it to the left. So remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. You open this up, make sure that you have a drain pan on the ground. I like to use a flat tote. It helps catch all the mess. So you will remove this and then just wait for all the fluid to drain out. Once no fluid is draining out of this, then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so in order to get to this petcock on this particular radiator, you see the center bracket here to give you an idea of where it's located. It'll be on the driver's side, so you got one small hole here and then a larger one right here. That larger one, if you look straight up there, you can see that petcock. It looks like it's sort of pink on this one. It's going to be right in there. You will take your screwdriver and slide it right up to this hole, and then you can see here, use a large one. This is, and then turn this. You see I turned it. I do not have my tray here underneath me, so I'm going to move that and continue to turn that and let some of the fluid come out. When you do this, do not use a small screwdriver. This is a number 3 screwdriver. Reason being, if you use something smaller than this and it does not turn, you will strip that out and not be able to drain the fluid that way. If you do happen to strip that out, the next alternative to releasing the fluid is to actually remove your lower radiator hose, and that can be a bit tricky, mainly because it's messy. Alright, so you can see here that I have the little check valve removed. Okay, so I have my petcock open and the radiator cap is loosened, and now fluid is draining out. Once all this is done, I will go ahead and start removing the radiator hoses and the transmission lines. So while your radiator is draining, you can start taking apart this piece here. In order to do that, there are 5 Phillips screws that you will need to remove. 5 with fasteners, 1 that is just a sheet metal screw. You will use a Phillips screwdriver here, back these out as far as possible. You may need a tool like this to slide under while you're backing them out. You'll do it for this, and then there's 2 on the front here, right there. So once you have all 5 of those removed, you'll take your screwdriver and remove the one right next to the latch here. This is the sheet metal screw. It does not have any kind of fastener. Once you have all 6 of those removed, you can lift this plastic piece up, set that out of the way. Next, you will have a total of 7 10mm bolts to remove. There are 4 on the top side of this cover. I have removed the top 4, and they look like this. And then there are 3 that hold the hood latch in place. So you have 1 on each side here, and then 1 on the bottom right here. When removing this, take note of where this cable is ran. It goes right between here, because if you don't rerun this cable in this exact order here, you will have to take this off again. So that's a common thing where this gets caught up on something and then your hood won't open when you close it. So make sure you run this correctly, remove all 3 of these, and then this piece should lift off. So I have those removed right here, those 3, and this piece is actually attached to this bracket here, so it will not lift off, but you should be able to bend it out of the way. So this piece here is welded on. This bracket here does go all the way down. When I did the condenser on this, I actually had to remove the whole bumper and everything. And I have a video on doing that as well. So I'm gonna just put my fingers under this. I'm just gonna lift up, peel back. So I believe that will be sufficient for me to be able to remove this radiator. Now I'll go ahead and remove my upper radiator hose, my lower radiator hose, and the cooling lines for the transmission. When removing the radiator hoses, if you don't have one, these tools like this work great. They are nice little locking pliers here. You could use a regular pair of pliers, but these here, put them on there, you squeeze it, locks into place, and then you can, most of the time, safely remove the clamp. Sometimes, if the hose is flared, like if they're a little older, the hoses will prevent you from sliding it easily. If you get your fingers stuck under that and accidentally slip off, it will hurt. I've done it before. Leaves nice little blood blisters. So there we have that. Next thing you'll do is I recommend using 2 hands and just try to spin it to break it loose. Doesn't always work. You may need to take like a screwdriver or flathead screwdriver and try to pry out on the hose. But there we go. Fluid should not come out. So there we go. I'm just going to sort of put this off to the side. Let's see if I can tuck it there. Has a bit of a crackle to it. Might replace that. Once I have that removed, I'm going to go through with my 10mm here. I'm going to remove the 2 bolts on the top of the radiator fan here. So in order to remove the fan, you have this connection here. I just plugged it back in. Just push in on this tab, pull it out, and then there are 2 10mm bolts right here and right here. If this still will not come out, it means that some of your lines on the bottom are zip tied. So looks like right here I have a big zip tie, so that will have to be cut, and then I will also be replacing that existing zip tie there. So I have cut the zip tie on the bottom there, disconnected the electrical. Now I will raise and remove the fan. It's pretty straightforward, and then I'm going to set it off to the side. Now I have gained access to my lower radiator hose and the 2 cooling lines for the transmission. That'll help save me some time in trying to lay under there and disconnect them. To remove this lower hose, I'm doing the exact same thing with my tool. It is on there, it's connected. I'm going to squeeze it. See that it's loose down there, and then I will try to slide it out of the way. Again, watch your fingers, because it'll hurt if that snaps off. And then you can pull off that radiator hose, make sure your pan's underneath it. There may be a little bit of fluid in it. Once I have this removed, I'm going to switch my pans, get my oil pan down here. Once you have your radiator hose completely disconnected, go ahead and come down to the bottom and cut any zip ties that may be holding things in place, along with removing this 10mm bolt here. It holds a bracket that holds one of the transmission cooling lines on. Then once those are removed, you will come up here. On each side of your radiator, you will have a 10mm bolt. Also, can just use a Phillips to remove them. Remove that one, and then come over to your driver's side and remove this one. Once you have these top bolts removed, you follow down the railing here where my fingers are. Right about where my finger is, there's a 10mm bolt on this side. It is bolted through the radiator, connecting to the condenser. Then you will come over to this side, and on the same, follow that down right about where my thumb is. There is another bolt right there. So you'll remove both of those. They are 10mm. Okay, so the only thing left to do on that radiator in the vehicle is to remove the transmission cooler lines so that I can install them here and here. First thing I'll do here is I'm going to cut this out of packaging and then I'm going to line it up to where when I pull the other one out, all I'll have to do is set this one right in its place. I can't remember for sure, but there might be rubber grommets that go on the bottom of this. I know that there are rubber grommets that will go on the top side of this radiator. So the grommets go right on these right here. So make sure that you reinstall those on there. Now that I have the zip ties and this 10mm bolt loosened, I will now use my clamp tool that I used on the radiator hoses on this clamp here, and then also this clamp here. And then the radiator will tilt toward the engine and pull up. One other thing is right here, take this off, set it off to the side, don't forget to reconnect it. Okay, so this is a pretty tight fit. When you go to pull this out, be careful not to press into your condenser too much. It looks like you push out toward the front of the motor or rear of the vehicle and you lift up. Looks like this side over here on the passenger side or driver side. Lift up on that. Keep watching the condenser so that I'm not pressing against it. A little tricky. Make sure I'm not... Keeps catching on electrical stuff on the driver's side there. So there we have it. Here is the old radiator. You can see here that looks a little wet on the top there. It's been leaking for about a week, and I just now have had time to replace this. Here are the grommets that you'll want to transfer over. Make sure you match everything up, and when reinstalling this, be very careful not to damage your condenser or press on these fins, because you want them to stay nice. It looks like even on the bottom here there are some grommets. Make sure you position these on the car ahead of time. You can just set them down in the hole and then drop the radiator down onto these. If you try to put them on the radiator first, chances are they'll fall off before you can get the radiator in position. Be sure that before you install the radiator that you put this fastener back on here. The new radiator most likely will not come with one of these clips. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to reinstall the new radiator in the same order that I pulled it out in. So I'm going to start with installing the passenger side first. Sort of get it down there, making sure that the top of the radiator is under that top bracket so that it does not catch. Definitely don't force anything because you'll end up breaking something. The radiator upper and lower parts are plastic, so just wiggling it down. It is touching the condenser, but it's not pressing into it very hard, so I'm thinking it's going to be okay. So, looks like I'm going to line up the radiator into those rubber grommets on the bottom. Make sure that they're both pressed all the way down. And there you have it. Then I'll make sure I pull the metal brackets over the radiator and tighten these back down, along with the two bolts that go on the side and connect it to the condenser. When replacing this screw, make sure that you do not put a screw that is too long in here, because you don't want it to bottom out on the radiator and crack the plastic down there. Okay, once we have the radiator in position, we will reattach both the cooling lines here and here, followed by the lower radiator hose, and then Once you have those connected, there will be two 10mm bolts right about here on both sides of the radiator. You'll want to reattach both of those. Once that is done, you will come over here and grab your fan, and you will lower that into position. It'll go into this tab here, and then you could attach both your two 10mm bolts and your electrical harness, followed by zip tying anything that is sort of dangling there. Now that I have the fan reinstalled and the line down there zip tied, I reattached the upper radiator hose. When putting this back into place, make sure you have both the grommets on top of the radiator underneath here, and then you will start all of these bolts here, start them by hand, make sure they're in position. You have a total of 7 bolts to start. So we have these 2 here, this one here, and then the 4 up top. So we'll get all those started, and we'll zip them down, make sure they're all tight, and then we will reinstall this plastic cover with the 6 screws and fasteners that hold that down. Okay, so you will be adding coolant until the system is no longer accepting any more coolant. Then you'll want to come over to your reservoir over here and actually top this off. Make sure you follow the fill lines. If it's cold, fill it up to whoever it tells you to fill it up on the side here. Next thing you'll want to do is you can start the vehicle, let it run for about 20 seconds. See if it pulls any of the coolant down. If it does, add some more. If it doesn't, go ahead and remove this and reinstall your radiator cap, start the vehicle, and check for leaks. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful. Please feel free to like and subscribe for future videos on this particular vehicle.